Hello all. Today we will see how to set up the Oracle 19c data guard. In this particular tutorial, I'll cover step-by-step setup of Oracle 19c data guard. This particular tutorial is divided into 3 videos. In the first video, I'll be setting up the primary. I'll create a primary database, create standby from primary using RMAN, and I will be enabling the MRP or the data guard, and finally I will be testing the data guard log shipping, whether the logs are shipped or the archive logs are applied on the standby. So we will verify that in this particular tutorial. In the second video, I will enable the data guard broker and I will set up the fast start failover in the second video. And in the third video, what I will do is I will add a third standby. So multiple standbys, 2 standbys, we will configure 2 standbys in the third video. So that is what we are going to do in this particular tutorial. So I'll divide this particular tutorial in 3 parts. First, setting the MRP between primary and standby. Second, set up the broker and fast start failover. Third, in third video, we will set up the third standby. My setup is I have got Oracle 19c and I'm using Oracle Linux 7.8. I have used 2 Linux boxes, DB1 and DB2. This particular document will be shared with you, so you can always refer this document in future if you want, and I will also share the scripts used along with this particular document. I'll put the link to this particular document in the description of the YouTube video. Make sure that both the servers and machines are able to communicate with each other. There is no firewall blocking between these 2 machines. Make sure that. What I will not cover is I will not cover how to install the Oracle 19c database software and how to install the operating system. I will not cover that. Again, I'm using VirtualBox for this particular environment. So my environment is built on the VirtualBox. To set up the data guard, we need to create the primary. So I'll create a primary database. I will set the primary database in archive log mode, enable the forced logging, enable the flashback on, set the DB unique name, then create the P file and configure the listener and tnsnames.ora file. This is important. You can have the same DB unique name for the primary and standby can have a different unique name, but I would prefer if you can keep the unique name on the primary different so that you know where that particular database is or what kind of, if it might be in a primary database data center, so you can configure the DB unique name. So if you see how I have done it is I got primary, first standby, second standby. As I mentioned, this one will be done in the third video. In this particular video, I'll set up the primary and the first standby. So the database name remains same, instance name remains same. The unique name for the primary will be AuraP, the standby will be AuraS. I am using 3 hosts. The first host is DB1, so primary is hosted, the AuraP is hosted on DB1, AuraS is hosted on DB2, and second standby or third database is hosted on DB3. Once we have set up all of these parameters, flashback on, archive logging, what I will do is this P file that we created, I will transfer it to the standby and I will modify that P file. Only 2 parameters I will modify. I will show what parameters I'm modifying. That's all captured in another text file. I will show you that text file as and when we go along. So we will modify 2 parameters. We will start the database in no mount mode. We will be using RMAN active duplication to do this particular duplication, and the primary database should be connected as target and standby database should be connected as auxiliary. And we will be using this particular command RMAN duplicate target database for standby. This particular command will be using. Once the duplication, RMAN duplication happens, we will create the standby control file on the standby. Then we will be setting on the primary, we will be setting some data guard parameters such as log arg-1. So this is for local archiving. This is for the remote archiving or the standby service. The log archive config, we will set the DG config. The fail client, fail server, we will also set the standby file management as auto, and we will configure the standby redo logs SRL files. On the standby, so whatever we have done here, exactly same thing we will do on the standby. And only thing is this now will be local archiving. This will now point to the standby service of the primary. Log archive config, we will config the DG config parameter to include both the DB unique names. Set the file client, again local, set file server to the remote, standby file management to auto, configure the standby logs and start the MRP. When we start the MRP, at this moment, our data guard should be working. Our logs from the primary should be shipped to the standby, and whatever transactions we do at the primary, they should appear on the standby. So the testing on the primary, perform some transactions and verify that transactions on primary have appeared on the standby. So we will do some testing. The next part of this particular document is on the setting up of the data guard, setting up the enable fast failover and add third standby, which I will cover in the next tutorial, next video. So I will not talk about that in this particular tutorial. So let's start with our steps. So what we are going to do, the first step is, to create the database. So we have to create the database. That is our first step. So let's go and follow this particular document. So what I'll do is as I mentioned, I have two hosts, DB1 and DB2. So let me connect to that host. So this is the DB1 and this is the DB2. So I'm connected to two hosts. You can see the host name here is DB1, the host name is DB2. So I've connected to these two boxes. The first thing that I need to do is I need to create some directories. This is where my database files will be there. This is my fast recovery area and this is my archive location. You can use the directories of your choice. I've used this way. So let me paste all of this and that's done. The directories are created. Again, the directories are created as Oracle user because the database will be created as Oracle user. So the database needs to be, the data files needs to be created. So make sure that if any other user is creating this directory, make sure you change the permission to Oracle user. The next thing that we will be doing is we will be starting our listener. So I will start my listener. So this is the listener file. I will show you the configuration of my listener. So let's do that. So you will come to know how my listener is set up. So you can see I got listener v19. So I got one listener and that's running on host DB1. So similarly, I got another. The listener name can be anything. It's your choice. You don't have to follow the exact same. But if you want to follow, like you don't want to do mistakes, you can follow the exact steps in my document so that you don't get confused and everything works. This particular setup has been tested. So it will work if you do exactly what I am doing. If you follow my steps, it's going to work. It's literally, it's been tested multiple times, so this is going to work. So I'll show you the same here as well. Okay, I did get twice. Okay, so you can see this particular listener v19 is on DB2 and I'm using port 1522. I have done the static listener registration so that this particular service, the SID is registered, so that I have also done. The tnsnames.aura file, I will show you that as well. That is the next file. So I will show you that as well. So you can, okay, let me clear my screen and get it. This particular entry is not required. So we need an entry for Aura-P and Aura-S. Aura-P refers to DB1 port 1522. Aura-S refers to DB2 port 1522. All of these things are captured in this particular document, which I will be sharing. You can see here how my listener looks like and everything that's already captured here. And this particular document will be uploaded. So you can always refer this particular document. The next step is I have to show you the listener, the tnsnames.aura file on the primary as well. Exactly same. The Aura-P refers to the primary and Aura-S refers to the standby. So you can see port remains same. So this is, I have kept everything very simple, like, Aura-P, DB1 port, same port, Aura-S, DB2 port, same port. In your production environment, this may not be true. So you might have to change these values, but to set up this particular environment in your lab, you just have to follow these particular steps as mentioned in my document. So the listener, I'm going to start the listener on the primary, and if I might forget it on the standby. So let me start the listener on the standby as well so that I don't forget it. So where was I? So I'm on this particular step and I'm going to start the listener on standby as well. This can be done at a later point in time, but I might forget it. So I'm going to start the listener on primary as well as on the standby. So I've done that. The next thing that we need to do is I have to create the primary database. The primary database that I'm going to create is using the DBCA response file. I'll show you that file, how it looks like. I've configured the database name as Aura. So that's, and the general purpose template. So whatever, you can use the DBCA GUI method, or you can create your database using SQL Plus. The choice is yours. I have used the silent method. So I will go to this particular location and I will show you how that file looks like. So, this is the file that I've used. So the response file version, the name of the database. So I'm going to create the database using the DBCA silent mode. And this particular step is going to take some time. So let me just try to create the database. It's going to give the warnings, the startup of Oracle restart. This is fine because this particular box has ASM and I have not started the ASM. So this particular message says that this particular database will not be registered with ASM, and I'm okay with it. I don't need, because I'm going to create this particular database in local file system. You can see here you can see here the data file destination is mentioned as dbd aura data aura. So this is where it's going to create the database. So let me do one thing. Let me go to db1, go to this particular location, and let's see if our database, and you can see the system and sysocs created. So once that is done, it will create the users and undo table space. So let's give it a minute and see. It's still at 10%. So this particular step is slightly big. So that's done, 40% done. Let's see. Okay, so it has created undo and users table space. So that's done. So while it is doing, next step that we will be running, the next script that we will be running, I'll show you that script. So let me go to the home location. So the next part that I will be doing is, once the database is created, I'll be running this particular script. So let me do this and I'll show you what this particular script is doing. So if the database is not running in the SP file, we'll create the SP file. If it is running already, then this particular step will fail, which is fine. Then we'll shut down the database. If it is running on P file, then we'll create the SP file, shut and start the database, which means the next time when we start the database, it will start running on SP file. But if your database is already running on SP file, then this particular restart is not required. I have just added it so that, if there are I don't want to waste time. So that's why I've added this step. Set the DB unique name. See my document here. So I am setting the DB unique name as AuraP. By default, when the database is created, the DB unique name will be Aura. Of course, I could have changed this in the DBCA when I created the database. I could have added that, but I just wanted to show you how to change the DB name afterwards. So using this particular command, we will be changing the DB name. We will be, if the DB recovery dash file is set, then we will be resetting it. If it is not set, then that's not a problem. This particular command will fail, which is not a problem. The log arc dash one, I'm going to set to the local archive. So this is the local archive location, which I've already created. And this is the local archiving. Then I will shut down, start up the database in mount mode, because we need to convert the database in archive log. Once that is done, I will open the database, verify that it is in archive log list. Then I will enable the force logging. The local listener, I will set the local listener to local host name and the port number. Then I will set some of the recovery dash area. So FRA, I will enable the flashback. I'll set the flashback retention target and turn on the flashback, and start and stop the database, and then create P file from SP file. Why I need to start and stop the database? Because some of these parameters are modified in the SP file only. So we need to start and stop this particular database to make sure that those parameters are written to SP file, and then finally I will create the P file from SP file. This particular P file will be transferred to the standby, and we will create our instance, but the database will be duplicated using the rman active duplication. So let's see where is our database. So 66%. So we still have time. So once this particular script is done, what we will be doing is, then once the primary is created, then what I will be doing is so once the primary is created, I will be restoring the database. Before restoring the database, I will, whatever the init file, if you see in this particular last script I mentioned that will be creating the init file or the P file. That particular P file I'll transfer to the standby or the second node db2. I will transfer the Aura password file to the second node. So that I will do. In the init Aura file, I will only do two changes. Remember, I will only do the two changes. I will change the DB unique name from Aura P to Aura S, and I will change the local listener. If you see here, local listener refers to host 1 1522, which I will change it to DB2 1522. So these are the only two changes that I will do in the init Aura file. I will add an entry in the etc Aura tab on the node 2. So I will add the entry for node 2. Then what I will be doing is I will be editing the TNS names and listener.aura. This has already been done. This step has already been done, and I've shown you how that listener configuration looks like, how the TNS names.aura looks like. And in this particular document, that those listener Aura configuration TNS names Aura.configurations are also captured. So you can always refer the video, or you can always refer this particular document. And finally, I will start the listener, which I have already done on the standby. Once the init file is copied, the password file is copied, the listener has started, then we will be creating some of these directories, and then I will start the database in no mount mode using the init Aura file that I had transferred and modified. Then I will go to the primary. So run this duplicate command from primary. Here everything is captured. Just follow the document. So connecting to the primary as target, connecting to the auxiliary as standby. If you see here, I captured that you have to connect the primary database as target, standby database as the auxiliary, and we will be running rman duplicate target database. So this is the command that I will be running. So let's see. Okay, so the database is created. So now the database is created. So what we are going to do is the first script. So this is the first script that we are going to run. So we are going to set the, we will, okay, so this is archive log, archive logging, force logging, flashback, FRA, that's it. So, and finally create P file. So these are the things that is happening in, and look, I'm setting the log arc-1 for local archiving. So, and changing the DB unique name to the Aura P. So before doing that, what I will do, I will connect to this particular database from my SQL developer. So Aura, so this is on DB1. So let me put the password. Sys password is password, and this will be sysdbs save. So this one will be on DB1 port. As I mentioned, it is 1522 and SID is Aura. Test it. It should get connected. Success, connected. And then I will verify my configuration. So let's do this. Let me run this particular query here. Select name, and you can see the name of the database is Aura. Unique name is Aura. So which we will be changing to Aura P. That it's in read write mode. Log mode is no. Flashback on is no. Force logging is no. This particular script is going to change these three things. From no archive log, it will be archive log. Flashback on will be from no to S, and force logging from no to S, and DB name from Aura to Aura P. So this is what this particular script is going to do. So let me do one thing. Let me connect to this particular database. So on node 1, so clear Aura env Aura. So that's done. Then SQL plus as sysdba, and this is the script that I will run at this. So create SP file, cannot create SP file, already being used by the instance, which means the database is running on SP file. So no problem, this particular step failed. Is going to stop and start the database, then is going to try to reset the, okay, then it's going to reset the DB request, and this step is also going to fail. Then it's going to do all of this, and then finally it will start and stop and create P file from SP file. So it starts and stops one time and two times. So it's going to take some time. So let's see, database not mounted, and you can see everything is Aura. So this one stopped. So let's see if it gets converted into archive log. Just give it a minute. So the instance is shut down. It's going to start up the database in mount mode. Not, I'm not starting the full database. So that's done. Archive log is enabled. So now it is in archive mode. This is the local archive destination. So that's done. Some of the parameters altered, system altered, database altered, again is stopped and started. And finally, what's going to do is going to create the p file. So file created. So and once that is done, I'm going to connect this particular database from here, and you see the information here will change. This one will change to Aura P, this one will change to archive log, this one will change to S, this one will change to S. So I'm just waiting for this S done. So let me rerun this particular script and see what happens. Okay, and you can see the DB unique name changed to Aura P. From no archive log, it is now in archive log. Flashback on is yes, and force logging is yes. So this particular script is done. So the first part is done. So the next part that we are going to do, so the database created is done. Some settings on the primary are done. So now we are going to send the files. So I already set the Aura env. I can set it again. So clear Aura env Aura. So that's done. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to send these particular files to the standby. So this is done. So before doing that, let me show you if I have any files on standby. So let me go back, exit. So I was on node 1, so this is done. And if I do this, I'm on node 2 now, ls-l, and you can see I do not have the init file, neither I have the password file. So I'm going to send those from the primary. So I'm going to do that. So that's done, and I'll come here and I'll show you those files are here now. I mentioned here in the document that I need to do only two changes: the DB unique name from Aura P to Aura S, and local listener, I'll be changing the local listener to DB2 152. This is the only change that I'll be doing in this particular file. So let's open this particular file. Okay, and search for DB unique name. Okay, so I found a local listener. So I'll change it to this. I need to change it to 2. So that's done. And this one I need to change it to S. So these are the only two changes I need to do. So I've done that. Okay, so let's verify. Catch init aura grep minus a unique, unique, and you can see that DB unique name is okay. So this is for the services. So this leave that. So DB unique name is Aura S. And the another parameter was listener. So let's see that. And local listener is now DB2 152. So these are the two changes that I have done. So we are good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I have already transferred this. I'm going to now start my standby. Okay, so before doing that, I need to add an entry in etc Aura tab. I always forget this. So let's add that entry as well. So let's add an entry in etc Aura tab. So let's do that. So this is done. Now what? So we have till now our primary is created. We have set up some primary and parameters such as archive log, flashback on, and force logging. Nothing else we have done. Now what we are going to do is we are going to do the rman restore. Before doing the rman restore, I need to start my database. So let me create some of the directories for the standby. So that's done. So I created the directories. Set my environmental variable. So aura env aura. So y. Okay, y. Okay, so I added, right? I added the etc aura tab. So even after adding, it's still asking me Oracle home. For what reason? Okay, something happened. Okay, okay, that's fine. I think something happened. So let me do one thing. Let me restart this session. Okay, I'll close it. Not a problem. I'll restart this particular session. So I'm going to connect to the node 2, Aura env and Aura. Okay, this works fine now. Good. So something messed up, no problem. So now what I'll do is I'll go to cd $oracle home /dbs ls minus l. I'm going to start the database with this p file. So, and I will start the database in no mount mode because we need to restore it. So connected to idle instance, startup, no mount mode. So I'm going to start my database in no mount mode. So that's done. Now I'll go to the primary. I have mentioned it here. We have to run the target duplicate command from the primary. So let me run this. Make sure your listener on the primary and standby is up and running. I have already done it. So now this is our litmus test. This is our final test. If this works, if we are able to connect rman, so then our configuration, okay, so connected to target database, which is in open mode, and aura auxiliary database, which is our standby database. This is already captured in here document. You see primary database should be connected as target and standby database should be connected as a auxiliary. So I'll show you my step. Rman target aura p, which is my primary, and aura s, which is my standby. This is done via the TNS entries. So TNS ping aura P. So you can see it is pointing to DB1 on port 1522 and aura S is pointing to DB2 on port 1522. Okay, so this is how it is done. So let me clear the screen and run the rman command. Now the rman sessions are connected to primary and standby. Our duplicate target database. Okay, so only thing that I'm changing here is DB unique name. This particular command, if it works, our half work is done. In fact, our 90% work is done. So if this particular duplication happens, then rest all is just setting up some parameters. So let's hope for the best and run that particular command. So I'm going to hit the enter and starting the duplication. So duplicate target database for standby from active database SP file. So that's done. So let's go to our standby. Okay, let me go to the location cd dbi aura data, sorry, not dbi, dbd aura data /db /aura ls minus l, and as of now I don't see the system file, undo file, anything. So let's wait for the duplication to happen. Nothing has appeared as of now. So using network, yeah, control file it has restored. So let's look at the control files. Yes, control files have appeared. Then a system file should also appear. So you can see the system file has also appeared. So the restore is working. Once the restore is done, we have two more scripts. So we have to configure the data guard parameter at the primary, and we have to configure the data guard parameter at the standby, and we are going to start our MRP. Now what I'm going to do is once this duplication happens, if there's, okay, finish duplicate, this is also good news, the duplication has happened. Now the next part is, let me go to home directory, cd data guard, and the next script that I'll be running is this on the primary, and the next script that I will be running on the standby is this one. So let me put here. So here, if you see, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the standby redo logs. I am going to, this one already set, no harm in setting up again. I'll be setting the local archive to standby service or IS. I'll be setting the log archive config, the DB unique name of the primary, the DB unique name of the standby. I will be enabling both the log archive destinations, switching the log file, archive log current. File client I'll set to local server, which is ORAP, local unique name. File server to the standby. Standby file management to auto, and the mode that I'll be using is maximum performance. Then I will be shutting down the database, starting up it and create p file, and we will verify whether our database is in the data guard configuration. It is, whether it has enabled. Same thing is I'm going to do here. But first thing that I'll be doing is create standby control file. If you see here, I mentioned the create standby control file, so that we will be doing. Then I will be adding the redo logs, the standby redo logs on the standby, setting up the local log arg-1, setting up the log arg-2. This one now points to aura p. Here it points to aura s, the standby. So this one, this destination is to the standby. This destination is to the primary. So the again, this file client here is aura s, here file client is aura p. So these are some of the parameters. The local listener I have already set, but I'll be changing it again. And standby file management auto. And finally, what I will be doing is I will be starting the MRP using this particular command, alter database, recover, manage standby database using current log file, disconnect from session. So using this particular command, I will be starting the MRP. And once that is done, using this particular command, we will see the database role and switch over status. So this is what I'm going to do on the primary, and these things can be done in parallel. So let's do that in parallel. So let me clear my screen. Let me take the note of the script. So aura env, aura SQL plus as sysdba at the primary script. So that's running. Go to the standby. Take a note of standby script. Aura env, aura SQL plus as sysdba at standby. So that's done. So I've initiated the script on both the nodes. There is no harm. These particular scripts are not related. So it's going to set this data guard parameter. So this is this particular part. On the primary, set the data guard parameters. On the standby, set the data guard parameter. Again, all of this information is captured here. You can see is captured in this particular text file, which I will be sharing with you. So you can always refer this particular file. So what script I ran on the primary, what script I ran on the standby, is everything is captured here. And once once all of this is done, we will run our some of the testing to verify that the records are flowing. So let's see. Okay, so failed destination. The reason why we got the failed destination, because still now the configuration on standby is not yet done. We started this script on standby a little late, so that's waiting. Once the standby comes up, then we are going to run this particular script. So now what I'll do is I will put this script here, and I will also create another entry. So this one pointing to db2, so db2 and sid with same. So now let's see the test whether yep says connect. Let's see if I'm able to connect. So not okay. So looks like okay. So let's run this, and not allowed, which is fine. Physical standby, read only with apply. And here I'm going to run this particular command, and let's see what happens. And you can see switch over status is to standby, database role is primary, and here the database role is physical standby, which means looks like our data guard is set up. The MRP is also running. Now the final test, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some transactions. So before creating some transactions, let me see if I have a table called test1. So the table does not exist. The standby. So this is my standby. So let's see whether I got okay. So, and you can see this on standby also, I do not have the table. So this is, show parameter name. So show parameter name. So this is aura s, the standby, and this is in the green aura p, the primary. So on the primary, I'm going to create the table, insert some records, and then switch the log file and archive the log file. So host clear, and I'm going to run this. So, and you can see there are two records. Let's run this particular script on here, and you can see those two records have appeared on our standby. So which means the whatever we inserted, the table that we created, that table got created, and whatever records we inserted, that also got created. Now I will delete those records, 52 and 56. I will delete those records and I will add 4 more records just to prove that it is still working. So let's do that. That's done, and something happened. So that's fine. I think value too large. Okay, I think this one is too big. So that's fine. 3 records. So now I'll run this particular command here, and you can see 3 records: 53, 54, 61, 53, 54, 61. So our data guard is working. So this was the tutorial on how to set up the step-by-step setup, and we have successfully set up the data guard environment between the primary and standby. The most important part is setting up the DB unique name, then doing the active duplication, configuring the data guard parameters on the primary, and configuring the data guard parameters on the standby. And the difficult part is the configuration of the listener and TNS names.aura file. So once the connectivity is established, then your data guard should work. So I hope this particular tutorial was useful. As I mentioned, this particular video series is divided into 3 setups, 3 videos. In the next video, what we will be seeing is how to enable the data guard broker and how to enable the fast start failover. And in the third video, we will see how to add the third standby. I hope you like this particular video. Do subscribe to my channel. If you like the video, please put the comments or hit the like button. Tell me if anything you did not understand, or if you need any kind of help, just put it in the comment, and when I get time, I will respond to your comments. Thank you for watching. See you in next tutorial. Bye bye.